Yeah, well, did not take us long to do this. So, first thing we have is, general public comment. Do we have anybody here that would like to make general public comment? All right, hearing none, we will move on to the approval of the October meeting minutes.
I so move.
We have a motion, I'll second that. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, good. Any opposed? We might have opposed, there's two. Staff report, Dusty?
Yep, it's short. We posted our budget for public comment. We uploaded the October meeting video to Facebook and YouTube, and then we shared the two news stories that we got for our grant awards by KREX and KKCO and posted the meeting agenda. So the story for the Business Times was Mineral Cystic awards 348,781 grants, and KREX said 348,000 in grants awarded to Mesa County. I did have the affidavit that we posted our proposed budget notice in the Daily Sentinel. It was published on October 25th. So we did post that out to everybody. And we have no grants requesting payment at this time. We only have 2 invoices for the month of October. It's for me for services and supplies that included 2 signs and the posting for the Daily Sentinel for $3,932.71, and then Dufford Waldeck invoice for services for $828. I have the 2026 meetings scheduled. I sent out the calendar invites for everybody. I ran it through Linda. We can be flexible as needed, as we always are, but they should be on everybody's calendar for January 21st, April 15th, July 15th, September 16th, October 21st, and November 18th. And our upcoming events are the board meeting in January, where we will elect officers and approve the minutes for our budget. And then we'll begin the audit process again in January, February.
You want me to make a motion now?
Sure.
No, you go.
Is Bobby gonna get nominated because she's not here?
And do just what we did last year.
Okay.
I have it right here on the very top of my screen.
Okay.
There you go.
Got it. I'm gonna take.
Appreciate it if you call on me first.
Okay. I'll just make direct eye contact with you and
You
ignore
make all the
everybody else.
loans you want, because nobody cares.
Well, I'll tell you what, given we only have a 3-member board, this is one of the easiest to deal with.
We're trying to make it easy. I know.
Most of the time. Depends on Craig's mood and day. Dusty, we got some good publicity in the last, I mean, just last round of grants, or last year's round of grants, we got good
Yeah.
publicity. Thank you for that.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Went well. Glad we went through this. Do I hear a motion to accept Dusty's report and the invoices?
I so moved.
I will second that. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay. None. We will move on to review and approval of fall 2025 grant contract.
They've all gone out.
Okay.
The top 3 have signatures. They've come back already. There's just 2 we're waiting on that haven't signed. It's the Town of Palisade. Police chief just got it out to, I think, Mayor Michelai the other day, yesterday. And then I haven't heard back from Town of DeBeck yet on theirs, but they have it. So
Cool.
and I have their sign and stuff. I have to meet her on Friday. So Chris did them. It should be good.
I think we're in good shape.
Yep. Reviewed them and they're good. So if you guys are okay with the contracts that I sent over, just make a motion to approve the 5.
We have a motion.
I moved the 5 contracts that have been presented to us.
I will second that. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay. And you're approved, and I need to sign these versions of
Yep.
them, and we'll get,
The other 2
signatures from the Greg Michelai.
in the back.
She don't have something.
Mhm.
And. Fine. All right, Moving on to the review of financials, you gonna handle that, Dusty?
Yep. So we have, as of October, $2,060,077.63 in our bank account. The permanent fund closed at 3.7 million. Our grants payable, because all the grants have been updated and put in, are up to 827,320. It's been a long week. $827,327. We have grants awarded that were put in there from this last grant cycle, the 348,000. Contract services, 3,750. Dues, memberships, signs, supplies, for a total of $685.55. We had interest earned of $7,114.03, dividend income of $7,743.51, and investment fees of $6,894.63. So here's all of our grants that were put in. Independence is really close to being finished. She did reach out and said that they believe that they're gonna have their ribbon cutting kind of open house for you guys in January, when they're gonna have that open. So they'll be sending out a notice and invite for you guys to come. And I reached out to East Orchard Mesa Fire Protection District. The gentleman that we had been working with, Dane, I guess, is moving to Denver, so I kind of checked on their vehicle because it was for a brush truck and we had a partial grant payment. I just wanted to double check that things weren't getting lost in the shuffle, and I haven't heard back from East Orchard Mesa, who's kind of taking over and finishing up that part of the grant, but he said that they were having some troubles with tariffs on getting some of the stuff finished, but they have the trucks. So I'll keep watching that one, just to let you guys know, but that's on there and we'll keep watching it. So all the rest of these are just the new ones.
We don't have anybody, we have an extension now, right now, do we, or everybody's
No,
within?
everything's the only two. Well, okay, Plateau Valley School District just needs to submit their report. They have lights. And then, so the town of Debec is new, Palisades new, Gateway's new, Chipeta and Caprock are new. So those are the only three that are kind of outstanding. So that's the update. So we'll be probably paying this one out very soon. So. And then this is our budget to actual as of right now. We're good.
Any questions or comments regarding the financial?
I move for the approval of the financial report as presented.
Any second that? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye, any opposed? Right. Thank you, Dustin. Matt, you're next on the agenda.
Yeah. I don't have much. I'll answer questions about the ones if there are any current portfolio balances about a little over 3.7 million. Returns year to date are off of that number. We're down at about 12.5% up year to date. Market's off about 4%, and it's highs now, which was probably about when this was sent. So a lot of that I think has to do with concerns that the Fed might not lower rates now the rest of the year. And it was interesting because the government shutdown didn't phase the markets at all. In fact, as soon as they resolved it, is when we started seeing the markets go down. I think a lot of the concerns probably about tech, which overvaluations. So,
That hasn't happened before.
but yeah, the portfolio, it's never happened before, they say. Yeah. The portfolio's in a good spot though. I mean, we're diversified, we're under our total equity allocation threshold, and I think there's a couple of things though that are not necessarily things that should be discussed today, but probably to start thinking about in the future. One is we sent that updated advisory, but that's not really much. I mean, it's just it was correcting a typo in the last one, but I think there's some changes going on in our industry, so we'll need to probably even update that again. So if we're not in a hurry, we could wait. That's fine. The contract we have is valid, and that would revolve around AI, the use of AI in the industry and the investment world, and then the cryptocurrencies as well. And I think it's something that the federal middle east district will want to start thinking about in their investment policy statement is to at least address those. Whether they want them or not, and then the same use of AI and stuff like that. So might be a future IPS discussion for 2026, and I'd be happy to prepare any information that is needed to facilitate that conversation. But otherwise, things are fine. Things are good. The big tech isn't under delivering on earnings, so it's hard to get comfortable with some of the multiples. But it delivered on earnings so far, and that I like this graphic because on a risk adjusted efficient frontier, we're the green square, and we're basically maximizing our risk adjusted returns. So pretty happy with that. So.
In a whole meeting update, yesterday we had some market corrections, what's happened today?
It was up a lot. Actually, well, the market was up, say 0.5% to 0.75% early. Came back down, actually went into the red, I'm gonna say around 11 o'clock, and then came back up. I think it closed up, but I left, and when I left for lunch, the market was up, so I guess we can check.
Yesterday, the gap was more of a small correction. And you think it's continue to feel over
Yeah, market was up 38 basis points. I look at the S&P. I mean, the Dow is pretty irrelevant when it comes to stock indexes. And I can explain why everybody's interested, but the Dow's or the S&P's kind of, and then Nasdaq's in tech. So S&P was up 38 basis points. 10-year treasury, I think, was down 4.1%. I think that's always one of my concerns is a disconnect between 10-year treasury and the Fed funds rate. So I was at Schwab's national conference a half ago. Was in a session with Rick Reeder, who could potentially be our next Fed chair, and I asked him what he thought about that. Like, hey, is that one of your concerns? If you guys drop Fed funds rate, he's a big advocate for that. I don't know if you guys follow me up at all, but he said, yeah, that's a big concern. and I hope that the other tools of the Fed would be sufficient, but I'm not sure we haven't really had to use those quite to the extent that we have that funds rate to generate momentum in the economy. So yeah, I wasn't like, oh, that's a good answer. I feel great right now.
yeah, it's consensus, isn't it?
What's that?
I said that's kind of the consensus, isn't it?
What's
That
that?
is a concern.
I don't know that I haven't heard anybody else talk about it. And he seemed stymied when I asked the question. It was like, wow, why'd you ask that?
It's the
You haven't heard anybody else talking about an inverted yield curve?
Oh, yeah. Not an inverted yield curve, a disconnect between, so in other words.
Well, that's exactly what it is.
yeah.
No,
It isn't.
I mean, if the Fed, like if the Fed funds rate, an inverted yield curve would imply like slow down and stuff like that, right? So what I'm talking about is if the Fed said, okay, we're going to drop rates, we got to stimulate the economy, get it down to 1%. But then you have investors like me who say, I don't really care what the Fed fund rate is. There's this amount of risk in the bond market. So in our treasuries and in our corporates and stuff like that, we're not going to buy them at those rates. And you have a disconnect now. So in other words, what he says is we got to lower rates because we need mortgage rate at 5%. We need 10-year treasury below 3%. And that's the service debt. And so he was saying like these are things that have to happen and we need to do them right away. And I'm saying, well, what if you lower rates and those don't happen? And he said, yeah, that's a concern. But the Fed has other tools. You know, they have what is it? They writing bylaws, you know, stuff like that. Yeah, so he's like, you know, hopefully those would be enough to also help move market rates, but that's a concern. So I think that's still my concern. Inverted yield curves, like if you know,
Short-term rates are lower, short-term rates are higher than long-term rates. This is where we are.
Marginally, yeah, it's very short-term rates right now. I should have brought that up. Usually,
What's the shorter-term rate than Fed funds?
Fed funds is its own rate, so that's the rate like banks borrow from the Feds. It's not on the curve. So like,
But it's manipulated by the Fed's trading operation. Every single minute of every day of every trading minute.
They just set the Fed funds rate. They
Yeah,
just-
but
just
then they
set-
buy and sell to make sure that that is within that target.
Not, we'll buy and sell what?
Bonds, treasuries, whatever they've got to do to make sure that that either they will, on Fed funds, they either buy Fed funds or they sell them, one way or the other. Keep it in that 4 to 4.25 range.
That's the rate. Like banks like you might say, okay, if we're in trouble, we need to borrow, we can go to the Fed funds window. So it's always been like a barometer of where they think rates should be, and market rates have usually followed that because we tend to trust the Fed, like, hey, they have a feel on the economy. If they feel they need to lower rates, then investors will accept lower rates, given that we're gonna say, okay, future inflation might be lower, growth will be lower. But there doesn't have to be a connection there.
No, they don't.
Yeah.
That's why you have an inverted curve. Or a healthy curve.
Well,
Because the markets figure out what the other term rates are. The Fed figures out what Fed funds is. Everything else is based on the market.
right, it is like, I'm not having any influence in the market, but guys like me, they're like, yeah, for 5%, okay, that makes sense, I'll take 5% on that risk. And so to me, I wish I had more influence, because when they do that, like if the Fed were to say, okay, we're gonna drop rates. For the Fed funds, it doesn't mean I'm feeling any better about loaning to somebody to a 30-year mortgage at 5%, given that there's a certain amount of risk in that. You know what I mean? Like if I'm gonna buy agency, stuff like that. So I haven't heard a lot of people talking about it, and maybe there are, I'm just not here. But
Yeah,
In my world, we talk about it every single day.
yeah, thank you. The group that does investing for the CME Foundation did comment on it just 2 weeks ago. Same thing, just connected with the 10-year. So, it was on their radar. Yeah, I want to bring it up.
yeah, but there's always risk in the portfolio, and I feel like the diversification we have is really good. I'm pretty happy with our bond durations. I do think rates are more likely to go down than short up. So but crypto is also something that we watch really closely and been watching for a while. And I think we're still too early, but I can see it coming. There's going to be a winner in that asset class. And I think it's going to make sense to have them in portfolios. So it's something I think that the discussion should start.
I don't think it's legal. I
Yeah, I was
don't,
gonna say, I
It's
think
not
based
legal.
on the state of.
not on our enabling legislation. And it's probably not legal, and then the second question of whether it's wise for, whatever. A district like this to invest in either,
You have to drag me kicking and screaming down there.
But that's okay. That's okay. That's our
Yeah.
job, is to
Yeah.
accommodate, our clients and your guys.
yeah,
But we're-
the legal constraints that we operate under with the public money that we manage, means that there are certain things that are off limits.
But I think we want to, and where I'm going with it is, we want to update the investment policy even to make that declaration.
Right.
We probably, yeah, I think that's probably right.
Yeah.
Say that is,
Probably should be stated in there.
that's not kosher.
Any more questions for Matt?
No, sir.
Matt? Motion to accept the presentation, I just know to do that, do it.
You don't, it's not really an action.
Ah,
item.
no.
I mean, he's just briefing you on where we are.
Did that happen? Thank you, Matt. And then, we're gonna take the, review of the investment.
Yes,
agreement.
and that's on me. I had some changes to the draft that Matt's office provided last week, and those look fine, but then I realized belatedly that there's an addendum that I had not read. And before I can in good faith tell you that that's okay to sign, I need to make sure I review the addendum. And if there are other changes that are in the offing at your firm, we can just talk about them, but if we can postpone this till next meeting.
There's no rush on it right now.
No,
We can operate
no,
everything.
yeah, there really is, it's the same.
Same agreement, and my changes were very minor. So, yeah, move to continue that, or just pull it from this agenda.
We will push that to the next meeting, unless Matt has something else coming down the road that we can get in there already. Will that be coming soon there?
No, nothing specific,
Okay.
we're gonna do this, it's just those are trends in the world that I think are gonna start needing to be reflected from a legal and regulatory standpoint in our investment policy statement and in our, potentially in our budget.
I agree with you 100% on like the crypto provision. I think we need to have that in our investment policy statement, just to say that it's not a lawful asset class. I haven't heard anything to suggest that Para, for example, is investing in crypto or any of these other exotic assets.
Do we want to add that now with this current?
Well, we could, yeah, we could.
Maybe we could just add, I think that take nothing to add that. Asset class is one that's not allowed.
Okay, I can do that.
What do you think, Craig?
Yes.
Everyone.
Just for the advisory agreement or just our IPS too?
I think we can do that in the advisory agreement first, and then
Okay.
when we undertake revisions to the investment policy statement later, we can make
We
that
can add it.
explicit. Yeah. For purposes of consistency. That's wise. Do you have people paying or asking to pay you in Bitcoin?
No. I don't think we can take that, I don't have the means to take that.
Yeah.
But in terms of its viability as an asset class, I mean, I think, in my opinion, the blockchain is the way of the future. I think the settlement process for a lot of industries. But right now it's just early. I think that, we're not trying to speculate like what you see mostly out of those coins, but if to the extent there's a cryptocurrency or digital asset that emerges, it's like a technology that comes to be the foundation for all financial institutions and governments and stuff like that going forward, then, I think it's responsible to have, or even multiple of them, it's responsible to have a diversified basket of that in a portfolio. So I don't know that, I think it's early still.
Yeah.
But it's coming.
Yeah, are there brokerages that will allow for settlement of trades or what have you in crypto?
Well, Fidelity will custody crypto, and then there's a lot, like the Robinhoods and the I think interactive brokers. Schwab should probably be able to custody actual cryptos next year, is my guess. But they're there's just a lot of regulatory issues.
Yeah, that are unresolved.
Yeah, and I don't really worry about that as much. That's not my job. It might be more your job. But the viability, like its staying power, is what we want to make sure we have a handle on before we'd say, okay, this is something we want to commit $5 to. Like a stock is a living, breathing company that generates profits and its earnings and stuff like that, and same with the bond as well, and that generates cash flow. I mean, we don't want to invest in something just because, we hope it goes up, not down, and it could disappear overnight. But that technology is kind of a game changer, in terms of the banking industry, the credit card industry. And so it remains to be seen, in my opinion, which of the coins will win. I think there were multiple ones, but and it might be one that's not out yet, but I think it's just coming. So.
Talking to a couple of old bankers, there's nothing.
They're all old.
There's nothing scared with like blue sky, and that's what crypto is. Blue sky.
Did you hear the story about the guy that invested in Bitcoin on a lark and then forgot the password to his wallet, and then it skyrocketed in value and he couldn't access it? It's like going to a hypnotist to try to remember the password that he's forgotten, and it's just gone.
The most famous is the guy who threw out
You guys
his
do away?
in the dumpster. So he offered to buy the dumpster because his amount of Bitcoin on there would be about $30 million. And he just threw out the thumb drive.
Yeah.
It's in a dumpster in their town, and he's like, I'll buy it, let me excavate it, and I'll split, I'll give like a third of it to you, the city.
Did he find it?
No, they didn't
They
let
won't let him do it.
him. We're not going there. Not going there.
Yeah.
We, have a friend, whose brother lives in Australia, out of the country, because he sold dollars with Bitcoin and everything.
Oh, we're talking, we'll come back to the US now.
Joking that he
Fair, but not.
He sneaks in.
He sneaks in, yeah, and the rest of the crowd. I don't know what's happened to him, but like, why don't you make some sort of agreement?
It'll be a hard change for the world, but like, think of our industry, we have Schwab to settle stock trades. You know, and so it used to be T+3 days, they got to T+1 now, which is great. But if they were all on blockchain, then it's instant settlement when you trade. I'm sure you're looking at that stuff, right, with being in the banking industry. Same with credit cards. So I think it'll lower fees, it's gonna reshuffle the whole financial industry. And a lot of other industries too. I think stocks eventually, now stocks are shares, but high probability that stocks would trade as tokens. Like in other words, the company would be tokenized. And then it'd be instant settlement, you wouldn't have to go through a clearinghouse or a custodian. I don't know if it's
Prediction
it's gonna be interesting next 10
prediction
years.
is it would be crash and consolidation.
That's usually the life cycle of those is like, holy cow, wait,
Yeah.
not what we thought. Okay, now
Wait, we gotta figure this out.
yeah, that's why I think we're early still. That's why I think we're early. Even though Bitcoin's been around for what, 15 years.
Let's see. All right, well, thank you, Matt. Let's move on to grant application questions.
Wait, you gotta do the budget.
Oh, I'm sorry, did I skip over? budget?
Yep, you skipped over budget.
Wow, I got 3 items back, I put over budget. All right, let's go back to budget. You were ready for me right after financials, weren't you?
I was, it's fine.
All right, fine.
So it was posted, I have gotten no public comment. There hasn't been any updates or changes or comments suggested. So this is what we settled on last meeting. We dropped down the estimated revenues to about 750,000. We kept almost everything the same here. We added about $5,000 extra to contract labor, so it'd be 65,000 for the year. Kept insurance and audit the same. We would have a 250,000 donation to the permanent fund, and then with all the extra revenue left over from the grant cycle, it would be a $701,219 grant cycle next year. Then added in the interest and dividends and capital gains to be about 130,000, with about $35,000 in investment fees, and that would be the budget.
We mentioned like we talked about last week, any changes, any comments from Bobby?
No.
Okay,
No comment.
your motion to accept the budget now presented,
I move to accept the budget as presented.
I'll second that. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay. Thank you, Dusty. You get that? Sorry, I skipped over that.
No, that's okay.
All right, now we can review grant application questions.
Yes. So I printed out the, if you guys wanted to look at paper version,
Yeah.
I have it here too. So
What was the one we had?
So it's on the mini grant
Forward.
form for the scoring.
I'm forward.
Under funding availability. And question for that matches up is is on page 7 of the application. Starts there. For the mini grant.
So. Thought process there and.
So when
Great, each person.
right, so when we did this before and we updated, so the thought process was, and maybe we have it in the wrong one. The thought process was is that we have to be the last person to ask for money, regardless of where they're coming from. So
It's not a hypothetical,
it's not a hypothetical,
right?
so we have to be the last one. But then also after looking at it and going through this, it says excluding the funds sought in this grant, have all funds needed for the completion of the project been secured? If the answer is no, please provide the details. But also, so we had said that this was supposed to be either it's a 0, they haven't, or a 10. So we could do a couple of things. We can take that out and it's not a 10 or a 0, or we can change how we've got this all worded and how it's gonna come out. I know we were really kind of, oh, sorry, I have two. I have the traditional on there too,
Oh, okay,
because
so it's many good.
we had talked too, it seemed like that was a better suit for traditional versus mini grant. But we do get some requests from mini grants where they're not, like the town of Palisade.
So.
Their application was, or the total grant request was like 200, not total grant. The total project was gonna be 245,000. They were only asking for 45,000 from us. All the rest of the funds had been secured, except for our funding. So it kind of does apply to them, but the majority of the mini grants, it kind of doesn't apply to. So,
Looking for money. Already.
yeah, for up to 50,000, we're not gonna ask any questions on, so it probably is. It's a good question for both, so how do we word that makes sense for you guys? Cause we don't have it scored the same way on the traditional grant scoring, which is why I gave that to you guys too. So on the traditional grant score, when you look at it, number 4 says funding resource questions. It says, how do I plan to fund future management? And then there's the extra question of if you're not successful. So we don't really have the same question even for the traditional that we do on the mini.
I think it should still be in, my opinion is I think it should still be in here. But on a mini grant, we should be able to put the score other than a 0 to 10. If they
Okay.
come in and say, yeah, we're still gonna buy those radios.
Regardless.
I don't know, what do you think, Craig?
I agree, on the mini grants, I don't think number 4 should be pass fail.
Okay,
Yeah,
we can take that out.
I think that's because so many of them don't
Right.
have a plan for what happens if they don't get the money, so.
And if they do have a plan, I'm gonna feel more positive.
Right, and if you wanna look at risk, our risk is greater, way greater on the traditional grants
Right.
than not. But also, if you look at it, that I would say, when I was scoring this last round of applications, I was looking at that saying, there was some of these we didn't get a straight answer to. And so that makes that a 0 by what we have there. So I think we ought to eliminate the pass fail on number 4 for the minis.
Okay, done.
But then if you look at, and I was going to advocate for just moving that same verbiage over to number 4 in the traditional. But it looks to me like the existing 4 is a different question than this question.
Oh, it is.
And I don't want to get rid of the existing question, so I think we're adding the question, is what I'm saying. To make me, that's what I'm thinking about.
And we can do it too. So you wanna add the mini grant scoring question and question verbiage to traditional grant.
Right, but at a different number,
Right. So it would
like a
be,
new number 5.
yeah,
Or a new number 4 and the other one numbers, whatever makes. I'd say,
Where it fits in, and that's number 6 or something.
yeah, we can add 6 and then bump sustainability down to 7, so we can have more questions.
I think that you should put the mini grant number 4 where that 4 is now, move that 4 down to a 5 and the 5 now to a 6.
This would be 7.
That's just me. One board member.
I would agree with that.
So,
I mean, that's
on.
somewhere in there. what we're doing with today, what we're talking about today was my intent first out. Right, so.
I agree with you.
That is. Christie, see any problems with that? Or
Well, you know,
duplicating?
the pass-fail scoring is kind of troubling because there are always gonna be those situations where somebody says, we've got a little bit of money set aside, but not enough, you know, you might score them a little higher than a zero, you know?
Yeah, but, from somebody that scores this stuff, that's telling you there may be problems moving this forward.
Right.
They may not be ready to go with it.
Right. No, that's right.
So if we have finite resources to dedicate to these grants, I will not use that shovel-ready phrase, but, it seems to me like that, when I'm scoring, that question has merit with me.
Oh, yeah.
In my people there.
Yeah. If we award this grant and you, as grantee, do not have the remaining resources needed to get the project up there.
Because it seems to me like that if we continue to, fund grants where they don't have a plan to move forward, we're gonna get in trouble. We'll get our toes stuck.
Yeah, or yeah, we'll have a default situation, or we have a situation where we fund the grant and then they never draw on it because they're not ready, or we have never once had to declare default under a grant agreement, but it could happen where somebody, they just can't get it together to do the project, and you have to say, sorry, your contract is terminated.
There was one that was dangerously close.
CMU.
Yeah.
There was one that we did not approve that would have caused some problems
Yeah.
recently.
Yeah.
Yeah, that deal wasn't.
So I respect what you're saying, but I think there's merit in that question being pass fail.
Okay.
Do you want that to still say on traditional? Do you want pass fail at all on the scoring sheet that you get?
That verbiage
Okay.
on the mini over to the traditional.
Okay,
But I think that's what Quentin and I are saying.
okay. So what I have right now is that if you want to look on the mini grant scoring sheet, where it used to say this question is either a 10 or a 0 for scoring, I've taken that off right here. So that's gone. So you can score it however you guys want to
On the mini grant.
on the mini grant. So on the traditional, I will add,
That same question.
this will be the new 4.
Yep.
And then this is gonna be 5, but, so on the traditional grant, you still want that to be pass fail.
Yes.
That's the one you want
Yes,
to be
ma'am.
pass fail. Okay, this is pass fail. Okay.
If it failed, I mean, there's a possibility of it still scoring high enough to get money,
Possible.
even if it doesn't,
Right,
but,
because we had that this time, because the scores that came in.
yeah, we did.
Some of you did score 10, some of you did score 0, and they all still were, okay. Okay, so this is where we're at with this, so. Funding exclusions, and then this is, this is either a 10 or a 0. I'll pretty that up, and then I'll add that to this. And then this is gonna be 7. So there will be 7 questions on the traditional grant score sheet now. And there will be 6 on the mini. So this is traditional. And this is the mini. Okay.
Is there anything else? I didn't have anything else.
And then
I do.
You,
go for it. This one is excluded.
The more I do this.
Yep.
And the more I think about it. I worry about us funding everything. Doesn't matter what you score.
oh, but funding,
We have this much money. And this much was the request, so let's fund them all. And I disagree with that, because there are times that means the scoring doesn't matter.
Right.
And I think the scoring ought to matter. What I'm
We had talked one
advocating-
time about pass fails.
I'm advocating a consideration that we come up with some kind of a number. Where if your score falls below that number, you are not getting funded. It doesn't matter if we have $500,000 left over, you're not getting funded. I mean. I'm very proud of the fact of how serious everybody involved with this process takes. But if we just dole the money out based upon who applies for it.
If you get in on the right cycle, you're gonna get money no matter
It just happened.
how bad you're.
Were there wide disparities in scoring in the last round?
I can show you.
There have been.
There was.
I know there have been in the past.
There was one that was lower.
This cycle I wasn't as concerned about, but it seemed like the last cycle, there were a couple of really low scores, we got money.
Applications.
And there was a couple that I thought.
Because
I felt bad about.
at the end of the day, there's really nothing wrong with
Oh,
holding
this
money
one.
back
And
for the next cycle.
That's
So
right.
this
It's
is,
not like we're gonna,
this is where they scored.
So
this one, the Chipeta Elementary School scored the lowest, was 64%. Everybody else was 72 or higher.
It's pretty.
and the logical question is, so if I want a minimum score to fund, what is my minimum number? And I will tell you, I haven't thought about it a lot. I don't have that.
Yeah.
You know,
An epiphany hasn't hit me on what the right number is, but it up there.
Just looking.
It assumes also that all your board members are scoring in good faith, and that, because theoretically, you could have someone who just says, I don't like those guys over at whatever entity, and just low scores them on everything. And I think that's rare, but I know it's happened a little bit in the past, maybe for different reasons, but, you know.
Meetup does just give you the history of all approved and not approved scores, so you can see where.
that's what I was gonna recommend, we push this. Not finalize this. I mean, we've got this verbiage. We'll push this to the next meeting.
Just
Yeah.
looking at like if it's the reason we did like the 77, that we did this was to kind of base it if like you were taking a test
Yeah,
and you get a grade, what would that grade be? A 64% is a D.
right.
Which is what I always got.
Yeah.
Right.
And the fact
You're
Yeah. President. even.
That's an example, I
So,
guess.
yeah.
Um,
So before when we had done this, we kind of talked about it being like C. Nothing below a C grade average is what we had talked about, is what you guys had preferred. There's nothing set in stone.
Which would be 70.
Be about 70%, nothing under 70% would be.
I would like to see. We put this forward to the next meeting and you give us the last 3 scoring sheets. I think we can kind of remember those organizations. And then we kind of set that. We all kind of look at those. And if we need to have any questions on those scores. We can ask them and then we try to determine that number next week.
I think
It might be different with mini grants than it is with.
Chris has a good point too, because we can refine this all over the place, but if the 3 of us don't take it to heart, it doesn't do any good.
No, that's right.
You have to presume that everybody's acting in good faith.
Yeah.
I can't really say that past board members have acted in bad faith, but I do know that there have been a few instances, not with this present board, where you're kind of looking at the scoring and it almost looked like they were intentionally trying to ding somebody.
Or the other way around, giving somebody all 10s from.
Yeah, well, and that's the other thing too. I mean, sometimes people have their pet project that they really want to score highly because they like it. And I don't have a ready answer for you. I know, for example, that DOLA, they have a lot of trouble scoring grants. And they use a lot of qualitative stuff, like we're not doing sidewalks this year, or you know,
Yeah.
things like that. It's an inexact science.
I guess. The main philosophical question that we have to ask ourselves is. Is not funding grant applications an acceptable outcome? And I've come around to believing it is an acceptable
I
outcome.
agree with you, Craig. You know, there have been a few times where I've seen grant applications, entities who shall remain nameless, where it almost just looked like they had to get something in and they were just casting around with
just throwing something in there.
You know,
Well, they're gonna give the money to somebody.
yeah,
Just
so
like-
yeah, sure, we could pave that parking lot, I guess. You know,
Throw
it's
it
like,
against the wall.
yeah, I mean, some of them just didn't seem to be all that necessary, all that well thought out, or and so, yeah, those are the examples where you could low score those in good faith and say, yeah, you're not gonna award money for this. You guys can take care of that later when you need to, and we'll bank the money.
Because we get bigger and stronger all the time. Now, I'm also not advocating for never granting money out. That's what we're here for, but I don't think not granting money is a bad outcome.
I believe, yeah, the other thing I was going to tell you is, I think Garfield County has actually skipped grant cycles.
They have.
Yeah, where they just said, well, we're gonna hold on to what we have, maybe do a bigger, more significant project next time around.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
Rather than, you know, some random alley paving or whatever it is, you know. I mean, you guys know.
That was the one that sticks in my mind.
Those are the no, it's like this, you know, they gotta pave the fire tower apparatus, or I mean, there's a lot of them that were
Marginal.
marginal. Yeah, I think, to be fair.
Now.
So you just wanna see the last 3 scoring cycles with the numbers?
I
Because
think
I have them right now.
Maybe you have them all, right?
Yeah, they're all right here. I can show you them right now.
Fine.
Give you the last 5.
Yeah,
You wanna look at them right now, or you wanna wait?
no.
Okay.
Put that,
All right.
then we've got Bobby here. And I want this one to be,
Okay.
and everybody agrees,
This is a big deal.
yeah, because this will make a big difference, this is significant. You know, we wanna have everybody here and we wanna have those for a little while, look at those and say,
Well, and if we make that kind of publicly known too, so when they're here and they watch the scores pop up, there shouldn't be a shock. Of like, oh, I didn't score well.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna get money.
yeah, I think we need to put it out and research it. I also propose that we look at a different minimum score for mini grants
Oh, yeah,
than we would for the.
absolutely. Yeah, I couldn't agree more.
The mini grants are hard, they have. The scores tend to run a little more.
Yeah. Well, now that we've had a question to traditional grants too, because right now it's 6 and 6. So it's a pretty even score, and then we changed the formula too, so that it would show kind of like an apples to apples. Prior to that with previous scores that we've done, because traditional always had more questions.
Yeah.
And so now we can change that too. Okay.
All right,
Why don't we
if
go
I
ahead and do
remember,
that?
serve some some idiot by the name of Springer was advocating for fewer questions.
Yeah,
We did drop
now we
questions.
just
on
add
that.
it.
All right.
No,
More bureaucratic red tape. Is that
Right.
what you stand for?
that's it.
But you'd rather have the right questions, no matter how many there are, you want the right ones.
Well, and
To get to
we can
the
improve
answers.
it,
Yeah.
because I'm telling you, when you're scoring them, that's where the rubber meets the road,
Yeah.
right there, when you're looking at that saying, yeesh.
It doesn't sink into me until we are in the scoring process and I look and I think, oh, we shouldn't have done that. We should've-
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then I definitely advocate for a minimum score. So yeah, let's do that. We'll put finalizing this off until next meeting, because we're not in a hurry.
No.
A giant rush.
Yep.
You're not doing this until next
Right.
fall.
Then we'll that minimum, we include the minimum score.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
We can,
Yeah.
if you guys go that route, we can include that in the application as part of the instructions and stuff, look, if your grant scores below a certain amount, there won't be an award.
Yeah.
Transparent. for
It'll
everybody.
be, that money will go towards.
Yeah.
Another
And
cycle.
ideally, that would encourage people
Try.
to do quality submittals.
Mhm.
For fewer throw them against the wall type applications, which we know we've gotten.
Mhm.
I'm trying to think about like the worst application, or the most questionable application that we've got over the years. I mean, they all feel some, but some of them seem a little less.
Like a couple of cycles ago, there were a couple.
Well, we've seen a lot over the years. We've had, board members that scored minis at 10.
Mhm.
They didn't want to give, money to the traditionals on the theory that they were big enough entities that they didn't need it. It's these little guys that need the help. That sort of never made sense to me. And geography made a difference with some,
Mhm.
and that doesn't make any sense either. But I just think we've got to come to grips with the fact that not giving all the money out is not necessarily a bad outcome.
Right.
Especially. The money gets lower, although we've got some activity that could bring on. Our funds up.
Well, and I think one of our past chairmen said very clearly that those molecules come out of the ground only once. And it gets converted into money, and we've got this one shot to spend it, and there's no harm in trying to hold on to it for a more worthy project or save it.
No, there isn't, because it just, like I said, it makes us, bless you, it makes us bigger and capable of doing more good.
Mhm. Yeah, we have a $700,000 grant cycle this next year. That's a lot of money.
Well, I think. Maybe not. Yeah, after next. There's a little bit of a new play. Some of the areas in Mesa County, they are starting to drill into the new play. And that could be,
Where's that at?
that was covered. They're gonna do some big Niobrara wells, big, long.
Horizontal.
Horizontal wells, that, produce a lot of money, or a lot of, there's a couple that are being drilled right now. And, there's only been one other one in Mesa County drill, so, these could be significant. Cool. That these two wells could produce as much as 12 million, so that can make a big difference.
That'd be great.
I just noticed it. I was up there in Cold Run, and I noticed it just by the volume of truck traffic through town.
They build a water line in Harrison Creek to where you turn to go to Vega. So from Harrison Creek to where you turn to go to Vega, that well is just north of where you turn to go to Vega. Those two wells. And they built a water line from Harrison Creek just to do the fracs because there's so much water involved that they didn't want to truck it. So they built a whole line, underground line.
Oh my gosh, that's not cheap.
6
Two lines. Two in that. That's how
much
much.
water in Colorado.
Which means,
Put a lot there then.
they're expecting
Yeah.
the outcome and getting infrastructure.
That's great.
Keep our fingers crossed.
Yeah.
Exactly.
All right, I think we're better in. Do we have any new business? Any old business?
Happy Thanksgiving, Merry Christmas, and Happy New Year.
Thank you, guys.
I'll see you before then, but yeah.
Your motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
I'll second that. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Just, this morning.
Meeting adjourned at 3:02.
Contract is Missouri.